everyone, this is Jacqueline, and you are listening to Dark and Enlightened. Welcome back. I'm so glad, first of all, that I finally met Nadine in person recently because I'm realizing that a lot of people like I may see online. I'm like, wait, I ever met you in real life? And I'm realizing Nadine and we probably have like seen each other in passing, but didn't actually have any time to sit and chat with each other until this past October, November. And we both went to a retreat that previously I had mentioned on another podcast I did with my friend Ronnie. We went to this retreat around recovery. And Nadine, I know her as a storyteller because I have seen clips of different things that she has done, which I will let her talk about. But I'm just really excited to chat with her because when we were in Philly area, we're able to just talk about a lot of stuff, and we have a lot of stuff in common, which I love, and it's always nice to do that. So I'm going to stop rambling, and I'm going to have Nadine introduce herself. Just tell whatever you want to tell us about yourself, about what you do. And one question that I've been asking everyone this season has been, what is currently giving you joy right now, or reprieve from all the bullshit?
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that question. Well, thank you. First of all, I'm so excited we get to do this. I feel like
me too.
you reached out after we were in Philly. You were like, yes, let's get on the podcast. And then I'm like, okay. And then life, the last, whatever, it's now almost May. So I just thank you, appreciate you. So
Yeah,
glad we met in person. That was a great,
me too.
experience altogether. And I mean, the people that we were connected with,
Yeah,
I really, I really felt so much good energy coming from that
I agree.
retreat, that experience. And I feel like, yeah, so I'm Nadine Machkovech. I am excited to be on here. I feel like we have so much already in common, and we could probably sit and talk for hours about all the things. But what I do professionally, I'm an executive director of a nonprofit called Rise Together. We're actually celebrating our 13th year this year, lucky
That's
13.
awesome.
And
Congratulations.
thank you. We're really excited. Well, fun fact, my fiance started the organization and we are, long story there. We can talk about that later, but we were running this nonprofit together. I recently also wrote a book. So I am an author
Yes.
today.
That's so
I wrote a
awesome.
book called Enough Already, and I know you shared it. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for getting
Of
a
course.
copy. I've been on this journey. I'm a person in long-term recovery from opiates, and I found recovery at the age of 20, and I celebrated just 12 years of recovery this last December, and that's when I
Wow.
launched my book.
Wow.
And I have been on this journey for the last decade of not just sharing my story, but speaking my truth in hopes that I can inspire or hopefully encourage others to do the same, like whatever that looks like. Like we
Yeah.
all have a story, and I love to share stories, but I also love to hear them. And
Me
that
too.
is like my ultimate goal in life. I want people to know like their story matters.
Yeah. What's one thing that's giving you joy or reprieve from
Today,
all the things?
honestly, so I was sharing this before we started recording, but my family and I moved to Florida a year ago. And
Mhm.
what's giving me so much joy is just being outside with our toddler. He's 2.5. He'll be 2.5 next week. And Anthony and I just getting outside, like that brings me so much joy. And it was in part why we moved. I'm from Wisconsin, and coming from like winter weather to the sunshine
Right.
state was the best decision. And yes, it's been incredibly hard. Not
Yeah.
going to go into all the details of how hard it's been making that transition across the country. But man, we went to the beach this last weekend. I was at the beach this morning. Like, that's how I
Which I
started the
love.
morning. Yeah, Anthony and he was doing a photo shoot with this girl who has this awesome surfboard. She's like, I want to get out in the water and bring my
Mhm.
surfboard. So we're like, hell yeah, we'll go be out there at
Yeah.
sunrise and be on the beach. Like that is a dream come true for me. And oh man, I can't even, it brings more than joy, like more than
Yes. And I love this because, again, depending on your level of woo-woo, both Nadine and Anthony are water signs. Me and Jordan are water signs, and we're actually opposite.
Yeah.
So Nadine is Jordan's sign, and I'm Anthony's sign. And when like Jordan and I always talk about like when we have two dogs, and when they go over the Rainbow Bridge, we don't have like human kids. So I'm like, we need to be by the beach because like obviously that's what we want to do. But to have access to the ocean and all of that versus like obviously in Wisconsin there's lakes, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's the fucking same.
Not at all. Not at all. No.
And
No, and it's so true. Yeah.
no, 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 go ahead. No. This
No, I
is
was just
also
gonna
the other
say.
thing is that on these episodes, like for the one I just did, it's so funny because me and her are so open about like with because we have ADHD but also CPTSD. So sometimes like we will be on a tangent. I'm like, I don't know where I was going with that. So like in our conversation we're having it and then you can see one of us blink. I'm like, it's okay, I forgot, you go. We just keep going. So there's no need to have like cool transitions or anything like that because we just constantly interrupt each other. What I was going to say though is running your nonprofit, and obviously you started it in Wisconsin, but now being, I guess, remote, so to speak, but you guys go all over the country though, right? So it's not necessarily you're based and you only do things in Wisconsin. So maybe if you want to go a little bit more into like what y'all do, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so Rise Together initially got started from this like grassroots recovery advocacy. Like, we want to create change in our community. And so it was like, no, we're going out, we're breaking the silence, and
Yeah.
we're talking about recovery and sharing stories of resilience and overcoming and letting people know that like recovery is possible. For me,
Yeah.
that was a huge mission of mine, especially in the beginning, and finding recovery or my recovery so early was to let others know like everybody's journey is going to look different. And
Yeah.
everybody's rock bottom can look different. It doesn't have to be, prison or jail or death even. And so, I have to give a little bit of that backstory for Rise because when I first met, these group of advocates that were, going out and sharing stories of recovery and talking about, substance use and even heroin. I mean, at the time, there was such an increase in opiate related deaths or
Yeah.
opiate overdose related deaths. And we wanted people to see like the faces and like the names behind those numbers because they were our family and friends
Yeah.
and people that, mattered and cared that we cared about. And when I met, this group of advocates and going out and sharing, I was like, that's crazy. Like, you guys shouldn't be doing that. I don't know who's going to listen to you.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like, people don't do that. Okay. And I definitely am not. So when they first asked me, I was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to share my story. Because I was like, that's kind of, that's crazy. And then, I became that person who lost someone to an
Yeah.
overdose. And it completely shifted my perception and was like, holy shit, like, no, I need to speak out. And I do have a voice and a story
Yeah.
and can maybe make a difference for somebody else to know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And so we started sharing our stories and advocating across the state of Wisconsin, went to like the state's capital, even the nation's capital, and sharing that like people with lived experience matter and our voices should be at the table.
Yeah.
And that's where we met people like Ryan Hampton
Mhm.
and other advocates across the country who were, and I say that because I know you from Mobilize, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and a whole team, like everybody, I felt like we started then surrounding ourselves with advocates that were also, making way and wanting to, make a difference. And it even became, more powerful as we started working within community and as we started working with young people, more specifically in high schools and middle schools, we saw so much of ourselves in them.
Mm.
And we're like, if we could ever get ahead of this issue that we're facing, we believe that it starts with prevention
Yeah.
and getting in front of the youth. Because today, however, what are they like 40 million Americans are impacted, right, by
Mhm.
addiction. Some number like
It's an
that.
astronomical number.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of people, right? Almost nearly every single person at this point. And they say, though, 90% of people that become addicted start before the age of 18. And
Mm,
so we're like, if that's the case, then let's support our young people and let's give
yeah,
them a voice and let's create a space for them to know that their story matters.
yeah,
And we started doing that and we started creating space for youth to share their story and talk about like what do they hope for the future or
right.
why are they speaking out louder? And we started doing campaigns and raising awareness and creating platforms for them to share their story. And now we've been in front of over 500,000 students in the last
That's
decade.
wild,
Yeah,
dude.
it's totally
That's
crazy.
wild. That's
Yeah,
so amazing. And
because that was never the plan, right? Like
right.
that was
I was just
never
gonna
the plan.
I was just gonna ask you, like, how, because again, you first got into it by sharing your story, seeing other people share their stories. I would assume they were not in high school. So how was this transition made from, instead of, hey, focusing on, our peers, our age, what was it specifically that made you guys decide, hey, let's focus on high school, let's focus on the youth? Because that is a niche that is widely missed. If it's not, like, obviously back in our day, it was like Dare, which did
There.
nothing for anyone,
Yep.
but there wasn't any sort of discussion around just the topic. It was just like, "Don't do it, okay? And if someone comes up to you,
Just
don't
say
take
no.
it." Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like, no one ever came up to me, for the record.
No,
Like, they would like, someone's gonna approach me under the bleachers. No one ever fucking did that.
no.
But the idea that, like, kind of what you had mentioned about, like, why am I gonna go and tell my story to people? I feel like young people nowadays, they have another level of anxiety in regards to putting themselves out there because their fucking life is out there. We have the benefit of not having our beginning life on the internet, thank God.
Yeah.
However, I find that when speaking with younger people, they may call us cringe because we don't give a shit what people think, but they really, really are concerned about that perception. So, like, how do you even, A, how'd you think about the youth? But B, do you see that and how do you navigate that with their kind of like hesitation to maybe put themselves out there?
Yeah, those are good questions, and it truly was the youth that asked for us to work with them, if that makes
Oh,
sense, right?
wow.
So,
Yeah.
initially, like, when we started working in communities, it was, yes, maybe at, like, a treatment center or working with students who were at risk or maybe were already in trouble, and they were like, "Well, where were you before I got in trouble? Like,
Mm,
where were you having these conversations when I needed you?"
right.
Could have maybe used that support and understanding. And then we even, as we started working with like upperclassmen, they were like, well, where were you when we were in middle school? When like we really needed these conversations. And even people today were like, well, how do you connect with youth? Like,
Yeah.
how are you able to even have these conversations? And at the end of the day, it's what we've learned is truly being like authentic, like radically authentic, like
Yeah.
straight up because you can't pretend. You can't put a mask
You
on in front
cannot
of
bullshit kids.
no, you can't. And they were little they will call you out on it, right? Like
Yeah.
they will know immediately. And I found that out right away because the first time I spoke was in front of like 800 freshman students who I thought
Holy
were going to like
shit.
boo me off stage or like laugh at me or throw shit at me. Like I had no idea how it was going to turn out. When I got off stage that day, I don't remember what I said, but what I know is that I just spoke my truth. Like I
Mhm.
took the mask off and I owned my own story. And I know that they saw it because I could feel like that connection with them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's how we knew working with young people, yes, but also because we were creating that safe space for them
Yeah.
because not everybody can, right? And
No.
everybody has a story, but not everybody can share their story in a way that connects with young people in an authentic way. And
Agreed.
yes. And so because of that, though, we really built our programs, our work around learning that process. And so we didn't just come in and tell youth like what to do or what to say or that they need to speak out and share their story. Instead, it's more like, hey, this is the issue that we're seeing in our community and it's impacting almost everyone,
Yeah.
right? You look around and you see your peers and you know you're not the only one. And
Yeah.
it drives this amount of action, where youth want to stand up and speak out and want to get involved and want to be a support for their peers. Like they want the tools. And
Yeah.
so what we did was gather like all this data. We actually partnered with Penn State College of Medicine. We just had our research
Nice.
published,
Oh,
and
no way.
next, yeah, this last fall in the National Institute of Health, and it was a peer-reviewed process. We had over 10,000 pieces of data, really
Wow.
showing and like solidifying the fact that stories save lives because they create
Wow.
space for people to know that they are not alone, that it's okay to ask for help, and that it's okay to speak out about
Wow.
the issues our communities are facing.
How did that opportunity come up? Because obviously it's not in Wisconsin, so they had to have heard of your work in some way, shape, or form, or you sought them out. How did you because that's a huge thing to be able to not only have it here published, evident peer reviewed, all of this to add the legitimacy. Because I think a lot of times people are like, "Why do I need to know how to tell my story?" And it's like, which is kind of sad when you think about it
Right.
because we are so used to not putting ourselves out there or thinking that if I were to tell you who I am, that will sway perhaps the way you look at something. So how did that opportunity even like come up?
So, I mean, really through relationships and connection. Initially, we started it because we wanted to know. Like, we went into communities asking questions. We didn't want to just say, like, hey, we have the answers or we
Yeah.
know, how to do what we're doing because we had no idea. Okay. Like, even forming a nonprofit was never like, that was never the plan.
Right.
And it kind of happened that way, and we what do they say? Like, we built the plane while it was taking off,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Like, we learned how to show up in community by asking the community how they wanted us to show up,
I
right?
love that.
And so asking the youth, like, "What do you need? How can we support you? What type of programs do you think would work best?"
Mhm.
Because most communities will either find a really great program and try to make it fit a box that it doesn't fit in, or
Mhm.
they'll find a really great speaker, author, educator, but then there's no follow-up program. And we're like,
Yeah.
well, how can we create something that's consistent and like long-term sustainable to create change and not just be like a one and done conversation? Like, just say no, kids,
Right.
and then see you later. Like, we got through it, so you
Yeah.
can too. We'll see you
Right.
next time. Like, we didn't want that.
Mhm.
And so with that, by gaining, and asking good questions, gaining research, trying to understand how to best show up, we were approached. Initially, we started doing some of that research with UW-Madison out
Cool.
of Wisconsin. And then one of the researchers there, she actually transferred to Penn State. And
Oh,
so
cool.
she helped bring our research there,
That's
which
awesome.
was really, I mean, honestly, the most incredible thing. And through that process, it took almost 7 years we've been working on it.
Wow.
And so it wasn't like an overnight thing. I mean, we do
Yeah.
have now several papers. Not only one of them is indexed, though, but just also showing like this is what youth are asking for. Like, they're
Yeah.
asking for more resources.
Right.
They want to know how to share their story. They want to have safe and trusted adults that they
Right.
can turn to in their community that know how to create safe spaces for them. And so
Yeah.
when we learned that, like, that's how we were able to build the programs that we have today, was really based off of what the youth were asking for.
Yeah. And 2 things with that too, because number 1, so often adults will go into spaces with youth and tell them, "This is how we're gonna do it. This is how we think we should do it based on our experience." So number 1, the fact that you're already pivoting it back and being like, "What do you guys need?" Number 2, I think, and this is just top of mind because I'm doing a workshop around leadership on Wednesday, and I was working it this is the first time I'm doing this specific workshop, and I was thinking about leadership and how, like, leaders are we people. This isn't like I'm coming in with my agenda and you guys listen to me. It's surveying and asking people what they need. So, like, one of the things I was mentioning is like, if you're planning for the future, why don't you just pause and go, like, do we have what we need now to even plan for the future? And just pausing to just assess the situation. So, the fact that you go into community, which is how people should, by the way, if anyone listening, maybe don't colonize shit, maybe go into a community and find out what their needs are, and talk to the people. And until I learned advocacy, community organizing, like I would have never, not that I'm, like, all up in my own shit, but I would never think, like, maybe people would participate in that. It's like one of those things where it's like, who's actually gonna show up? People will show up if they, it does apply to them in a certain way. And as you're talking with youth, do you find that a lot of the youth that you are teaching to tell their stories, do you find that a lot of it is rooted in their own substance use or as a family member witnessing substance use that went on in the home?
Very much usually a family member or
Mm,
a friend.
yeah,
But more often than not, it is, my parents, my
yeah,
cousin, my sibling. And not that maybe they haven't already been experimenting or, having some type of their own lived experience, but it's actually pretty wild to see how many youth today are impacted, not just by having family members that are affected by substance use, but actually losing loved ones to
yeah,
overdose. I mean, I used substances when I was in high school. I abused them, like I
yeah.
really struggled. And yet I was not somebody that could stand up and say, like, oh, I know somebody that died to an overdose because I
Mm,
didn't until after high school, until I was 20, and to
wow.
see kids today, yes, are they experimenting at younger ages, like 13, 14 years old?
Yeah.
Definitely. Kids are very aware and it's accessible. It's
Mhm.
incredibly acceptable today. Like it's not normal to take a pill for something, to, have a vape laying around or have
Right.
things that are, like alcohol readily available. And so, yeah, they're using at a younger age, but they're also, because they're so much more aware, I do see them, being more open to talking about it and
Yeah.
to feeling like, and I think it's because it's like a relief to know, like, "Oh, thank God I'm not the only one," or
Yeah.
like, "Thank God there's somebody else that I can have this conversation with." And we'll see even friends come up after a presentation, friends that are like best friends and literally not know how impacted they are by things, even not even substance use, but like suicidal thoughts,
Yeah.
and self-harm, which is something that I see young people today struggling with almost even more
Yeah.
because of social media and struggles with self-worth and not feeling good enough and not
Yeah.
feeling like there's like this expectation that is being placed on especially young women and,
Yes.
even young men. I'm not saying it's just women, but it's like it's to a heightened, I don't know. I mean, it's more than we've ever seen before in history, and so
And it's so
you to navigate that.
right, and it's so interesting because when we were growing up, and I'm assuming we're similar age, millennials, when we were growing up, it was something where the let's not say body positivity, the body negativity culture was, like, obscene. Like, I hear people, like, watch old episodes of, like, say, America's Next Top Model or shit, like, back in the day, or Britney and how she looks so fat, and in reality, she looked fucking banging, but
Yeah,
there was something slightly over. So it's like
yeah.
you see that level of criticism to everyone, and everyone is like, "Yeah, that person is fat." But I feel now there's, again, from my perception, there's a lot more body positivity in the sense of maybe not adhering to a certain size, but maybe a lot of it that I see is around, like, aesthetic or around, like, things, And that's my, again, I don't hang out with kids. I shouldn't, for the record,
I
considering what's
know.
going on in life. I don't
They're
hang out with
fun.
kids for fun,
Yeah.
but do you find that, are they hearing, like, the type of shit that we would hear? Like, which I think in retrospect was horrific. Do you hear that they're hearing a similar rhetoric, or is it, like, just a weird new version of it?
A weird new version of it.
Mm,
And, like, I feel like in a way, I don't know, because even for me, so, like, for example, when growing up, it was like, oh, I wanted to be like name brand clothes. Like, name
yes.
brand clothes was the thing. So it was
Mhm.
like Hollister or Abercrombie
Abercrombie.
or like stuff that I couldn't afford.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly. Me
and
too.
like today, and I feel like today, well, I don't know, kids are wearing less clothes than ever, so I don't even feel like that's a thing. They'll literally like it's interesting, but then I see them like buying like facial products, like getting really expensive like lotion and
Right.
like getting their eyebrows done and nails and
Yeah.
yeah, aesthetic. Like I don't know, like taking it even a step further than what I
It's
worried about.
yeah. So it's like a weird we as our age, can call it self-care. Like, "Hey, now I've got adult money and I'm not gonna slather on whatever on my fucking face." So that.
Right.
But it's almost like they are thinking and adult money, that's an asterisk too. I mean, we're not rolling in the dough here, and neither are they by any means,
No.
but it's also that is weird because again, same thing for me, Abercrombie, Hollister, I had nothing name brand. I got Kmart or
Yeah.
Walmart, or Factory to You, which isn't even a brand, it's just random mishmash of shit, but kids now will be like, "Oh, you don't have Charlotte Tilbury?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, that's like $50."
Yeah, literally.
But it does also come from that influencer culture of like, I'm this person, I use this, my skin looks this. So for them, they see it almost like, here's proof because I want my skin to look like this. And I guess our equivalent would have been infomercials, like
Yeah.
fucking Bare Minerals. I wanted Bare Minerals for so long. And they're like, no, that's expensive. Now I'm like,
Yeah.
I have two of them. Don't worry about it. But I guess it's more so like the show and tell of like, look what I have, or look what I have access to maybe. Huh.
I don't know. I mean, I go back and forth because it's interesting to watch. Like, obviously, they're learning majority of it from social, like TikTok
Mhm.
trends that
Yeah.
can be really great. I see kids today drink more water than ever before. Like, literally,
We didn't
everybody
drink
has a
water.
water bottle. Yeah. Like, I never drank water ever. Okay. Like, Mountain Dew all day, baby. Okay. Like, that was where it was at, and now I don't see a kid picking up a soda, and that's cool,
No.
you know?
Right. So it's like these weird things that have shifted, but again, they're dealing with their own set of stuff. And so
Yeah.
when speaking with them, what do you find at the end when they are able to tell their story or they're able to kind of like formulate it together? What do you find kind of happens with them? Are they able to talk to those people that they are referencing? Or do you find that for them, it's like here's now support, or here's a group of people that get it?
I think it's both. It's a both and. I think
Mhm.
that there are times where students maybe don't say anything at all, and yet we'll get a message from them like weeks later, and they'll say,
Oh, wow.
"Hey, I finally had that conversation with XYZ." And most of the time it goes well, right? Like, not
Yeah.
always. There are times where we've had to check in on students, where we've had to check in with schools or community or their, leaders to make sure that they're doing okay, because a lot of it can be really hard. The
Yeah.
conversations we're having aren't easy. And so for them to walk away feeling that they're not alone, I mean, that's really like our ultimate goal. And to
Yeah.
know like whatever they're going through, matters, right? Because
Yeah.
they matter and their voices matter. And we will ask students that, though, we'll ask them if they think their voices matter because we want them to walk away with knowing that they do. And
Yeah.
it's one thing to say it, but to actually believe it. And I know that that takes time, and that
Yeah.
takes also work and practice. But to see them feel like they have support, not
Mhm.
always, right? Like, unfortunately, some schools don't have a lot of support, and
Mhm.
some spaces, literally, like resources are far and few between when it comes
Yeah.
to supporting our youth. And teachers are quitting and retiring at
Yeah.
higher rates than ever before. And it's been really hard, I know, to connect with young people, but like they're our future and we need
Yeah.
to. And they're literally yearning for it. Like they
Yeah.
want safe places to go. And because it is isolating. Like
Mhm.
even if you have a screen or a phone or technology, like youth today are struggling in isolation and in
Yeah.
disconnection and feeling like that their voices don't matter. And so we want them to walk away with knowing that they're supported. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a both and.
Yeah. Because you had mentioned that you got into recovery when you were 20, is that right? And even that, which if you are someone who ends up going to college, school, doing anything like that, that's obviously like kind of like right in the middle of all of that. Was there something specific that finally made you be like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this. And what was your experience like then being that age, but not in that? Because millennials, again, we're party culture. So it was like, hey, there's a bunch of shitty things. Let's party. Let's just
Yeah.
fuck it. Work hard, play hard. That's
Yeah.
honestly what we
Oh
were
yeah.
taught. Yeah. So how was that for you during that time frame? Because it's like now if someone or like someone in college, again, there's so many collegiate recovery programs and things like that. So I feel like now it's like if someone's like, "Okay, I don't use substances," you're like, "Okay, anyway." Back then,
Yeah.
it was like, "What do you mean you don't trade him?" So
Yeah.
for you, what was it that finally was like, "I can't do this as just like a fun time party thing?" And then also, what did that feel like?
Yeah, I share about this. I go a little bit deeper in my book because turning 21 in recovery was like it was scary. It was it was almost like
Yeah.
heartbreaking. Like I remember crying on Anthony's bed being like, "My life's over. I have nothing to look forward to. Like, what am I going to do for my birthday? I can't even go out, like
Yeah.
kinda being dramatic about it at the same time. I never really drank
Mhm.
anyways. I did sometimes in high school, but, like, I did opiates, like,
Yeah.
I wanted all the heavier stuff, like, I wanna get fucked up, like, that was
Right.
drinking was just an add-on to what I was
Yeah.
doing, and so for me, though, like, it got to a point, I think, because I was so messy
Mm.
and the shame that I had. I mean, a lot of it was all internal, It's not like I
Yeah.
showed it a bunch to everybody, like, not many people knew I was struggling to the extent that I
Yeah.
was struggling because I still graduated high school early with high honors. I
Wow.
had my car, my license, I was taking college, like, courses at the tech
Yeah.
as a senior, like, in the midst of my addiction and substance use at the time, because I still wanted to, like, put on this show that I was fine,
Yep.
right? Like,
Mhm.
everything was okay. I
Yep.
didn't need anybody else
Mhm.
until I did, until I really realized that, like, "Oh, man, I pushed everybody away, and
Mm.
I hurt some really good friendships, and I
Yeah.
fucked over a lot of people that, I wasn't proud of." And
Yeah.
at that time, like, I, had some inheritance and I wasted all that on drugs, and I
Mm.
was like especially too, I'm the youngest, I have 4 older siblings or older sisters, 2 stepsisters and 2 biological, and they all have kids, and so
Mm.
I also felt this, like, responsibility for my nieces and nephews, like, I knew I could
Yeah.
do better, like, that was
Mm.
not the person I wanted to be, and so
Yeah.
it literally got to that point where, yeah, I lost friends, lost my job, spent all the money, didn't have anywhere else to go, and was like, "Okay, well, now what?" It's like, "Are you gonna
Yeah.
do something about it or not?" And, I mean, thankfully, like, my other one of my sisters showed up for me and let me move in with her and
Yeah.
created this space for me to detox and sober up
Yeah.
and kinda get my shit together.
Yeah.
And that saved my life,
Yeah.
like, literally saved my life because I mean, it was a few weeks after that that I lost a good friend to an overdose, and I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
shit, that could have been me." Like,
Yeah.
that was gonna be me, and
Yeah.
wasn't, and so that was, like, the huge eye-opening moment for me that I was like, I'm not gonna put my family through what I watched his family go through."
Yeah. And one thing as you're talking about this, it's very reminiscent of what happened with my brother because my brother was involved in a car accident, but and it was to the point where he was ejected from the vehicle. He was in a wheelchair for a couple months because his pelvis was fractured, all these other things. So of course, like all stories, unfortunately, they gave him all the oxy to help with the pain, etc. But after that, obviously it was an accident. So he got a huge settlement out of it. And that money went, which again, in the beginning, it was like He wanted this very specific car because he's a bougie bitch. So of course he got the very specific. Just he was always like the bougie, balling on a budget, but yet like everything had to be name brand. Like my brother and sister, so I'm the oldest. My brother and sister did get the Hollister, did get the They got those. I didn't. Am I still bitter?
Mhm.
Yes, I am. But he was a bougie ass bitch, so he wanted things name brand. He bought me a TV because the TV I had was from an ex, an abusive. He didn't know the ex was abusive, but he bought me a TV so I would have my own TV. He bought my sister her laptop because she was going into college. So, like, once that was done, though, wow, look at how much I have left over. And it went towards drugs and all sorts of other shit. And honestly, I don't even know. But it was someone at that time who was one of his friends who reached out to me and go, yo, this is not good anymore. And I honestly can't remember if they had that conversation with him, but I'd never had any of his friends who they were all like party, people come to me and go, this is not fun anymore. There's a bigger issue. Was anyone in your time, any of your friends ever go, hey, this isn't like party fun time anymore, like, what the fuck, and went to anyone in your family or anything like that? Damn,
No, no.
damn.
No, and I don't know if it was because I, like, fucked all of them over or, like, I guess I burned all my relationships and nobody gave a shit about Nadine anymore. No, it's not sorry.
No,
Like, anybody if there's
yeah,
anybody's that's watching this, maybe they're like, "No, but I didn't, I really didn't." I mean, I didn't let anybody close enough to me, though, either. Like, there
yeah,
was only one person, and it was the guy I was seeing at the time.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he definitely wasn't going to my family saying anything because he was right there next to me with me, you know?
yeah,
So it was like, no. And I wish I would have. I wish somebody would have been like, hello,
yeah,
Nadine, like, wake
yeah,
up. Or
yeah,
even when I was in high school, and I just talked about this recently with one of my old high school teachers, because they were like, I was like, "Why didn't you say anything?" Like, I know I was a good student and I kinda put on a good show, but I also was getting into trouble. He was like, "Well, you didn't get into any trouble." I was like, "Yes, I did. I got, like, an
yeah,
OWI. I got, like, driving, with intoxicants and I was revoked." I mean, you know what I mean? Like, all these things that were
yeah,
happening that I thought would have been bigger red flags, and yet
mm,
there really wasn't. And I don't know if it's because they didn't know how to approach it or what to
yeah,
say, like, that's something that I really try to advocate for today is, like, check in on your friends. Like,
yeah,
it is that simple, like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And it really wasn't until my sister showed up for me and was like, "No, like, we love you and we do
mm,
care about you. Like, come live with us and
mm,
we'll." I had no idea what that was gonna look like because we weren't close at the time. I felt
yeah,
like she was a very Christian, healthy woman, married, pregnant. I was like, "You're too good for me. I can't spend time with you."
right,
But I'm so glad that I did because she
yeah,
did. I mean, saved my life, and she didn't shame me, she didn't force me
yeah,
to change. She didn't say, "Hey, you have to do this." She
right,
opened up her door and was like, "Okay, like, if we're gonna do it, let's figure it out together." And they had strict rules and boundaries and things that I had to follow. That eventually, a couple months later, I was like, "I'm an adult. I need my own place now."
yeah,
But that's when I knew I was ready, and I got my own place. And it really was having, like, community support because I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it alone. Like,
yeah,
turning 21 in recovery, like, thank God I had friends and support, like, people in my life because
mhm,
I probably would have went back, or
yeah,
or at least would have probably made some shittier choices in my early
yeah,
20s because I really didn't know any other way, especially growing up in Wisconsin. Like, we're known for drinking. We're
yeah,
proud.
yeah,
And that was, like, even growing up with it in my family, it was so much part of our culture, and I didn't think there was gonna be anything else to look forward to. Like, I really didn't.
yeah,
Man, if I could encourage anybody to at least wait, before. I mean, they literally set the age at 21 for a reason,
mhm.
because w I mean, even if we could wait till we're, like, 25
Yeah, I was
when
just gonna say, the
brains are
frontal lobe.
yeah, it's still too young, but, um, because we're so naive and stupid. Like, I didn't know anything.
Mhm.
And I'm
Yep.
so glad that I didn't. I mean, especially those first 5 years of sobriety, like, I love the shit out of my 20s. Like, I
Yeah,
had
me too.
most fun, and I got to travel. I went to New York, I went to LA, I went all across the country and got to meet other people in recovery, and I got to
Yeah.
learn that, like, everybody's recovery looks different, and I got to define, like, what mine looked like, and I think
Yeah.
that that gave the power back to me too. Like, I wasn't like, NA is the only way. I wasn't
Yeah.
somebody that was like, "You gotta do this to get here," and, that's something that I've really had to advocate for too, especially as a young girl, because what worked for me, wasn't really gonna work for maybe the next person.
Yeah. I try to emphasize this as much as I can about how obviously one size does not fit all. And the fact that you automatically have that mentality, approach the youth with that mentality, approach anyone with that mentality automatically shows just this other level of like, I'm putting my fucking ego aside. I'm putting all my shit aside and just being like, look, I want to support you. And that may not look like what I needed. And the fact that you've been doing this work, again, since, I hear a lot of people may not go into recovery until their 30s or, late 20s, whatever it might be. You've been doing this work for a longer period, maybe, or been exposed to the advocacy. And, we all talk about burnout. And I only have been in the advocacy space for about 5 or 6 years. So I've been burnt out multiple times, and that's only 5 to 6 years. Um, as you do this, especially, and you're hearing stories, and I'm sure you hear people like you or like people when you go into these spaces, how do you handle things that might be triggering you in that moment? Because a lot of times, in case people don't know, we are responsible for our own nervous systems. So if someone else says some shit and it sets off something in me and they didn't know that, that's not their fault. That is your responsibility to control your reaction to that. However, you also cannot anticipate everything around you or what might trigger you because you don't know it's a trigger until you start fucking sobbing. So, for you in these spaces, like, have you found there are certain types of stories or certain things that as soon as you hear it, you're like, fuck, like this is not necessarily going to test you, but it's going to check that your emotions still work?
Yeah, yeah, so many times, actually. I feel like I mean, so normally what we do for Rise is like large assemblies. So
Yeah.
we're in front of hundreds, sometimes even, a couple thousand students at a time. And you can literally not predict. I feel like that's why they say public speaking is like the number one thing people fear because you can't predict the
No.
outcome. You have no idea what the situation is going to be that you're walking into. And I have walked into so many different situations, especially as a young white female. I've been
Yeah.
in even uncomfortable situations where I am the minority and I also need to like check my own self and make sure that I'm showing up in a way that's respecting this community
Yeah.
because I don't wanna be the one with all the answers or
Yeah.
acting like I have them because I don't, and
Mhm.
so that, I think, for me, allows me to show up in a way that I'm coming through with curiosity, like, I wanna
Yeah.
learn, and my number one strength, like, through the Gallup Strengths Test Finder or whatever, is learning. That's, like, my number one thing,
There's
like
a strength test finder?
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah, in fact,
gosh.
it's actually really powerful because we always focus on, I feel like, what we're not good at, and we
Right.
wanna be
Mhm.
better at what we're not good at, but what if we got really good at what we're already really fucking good at,
Right.
right?
That
So
yes.
yeah, and I learned that I'm really good at learning. So I'm like,
Yes.
how can I use that to create spaces for others to feel like their voice and stories matter, right? So I can learn. But doing so, I've had to know my own boundaries. And there are certainly like parts of my story that I have had to navigate learning when is the right time to share it, or
Mm.
more so, not always like the right time, but the right audience, because parts that we share of ourselves, like not everybody deserves to hear either.
Mhm.
And I know that, yeah, I mean, because you can't always predict what the response is going to be. But again, yes, I can know how I'm going to show up. And I guess, I don't know. For me, it really matters. Like, I guess I really learned that actually the last couple years in writing my book
Hmm.
because I spoke on a lot of stages, right? And I've shared my story and I've been in front of groups and audiences, but to actually sit down and write my story out, that is where I found a ton of healing, but it
Yeah.
also was, I think, because it was more triggering, right? Because you're
Mm,
getting more deep into
yeah.
stories and reflecting maybe on past hurts or mistakes or things that, I had to confront that were pushed to the side for a long time.
Hmm.
And in doing so, though, it's helped me be, though, more confident in my own story. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's interesting because yeah, I mean, I can go back to though, like, there are parts where I wouldn't share a lot of that for a while, especially like, in 2020 when our 17-year-old son passed away
Mm,
to an accidental overdose to fentanyl. That for me, I mean, talk about feeling like not knowing if I was supposed to even be doing this work anymore, right?
yeah.
Like very much questioned if my story even mattered anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, how can we work in this space and we were doing this already prior to losing Gavin. And a lot of times people do start advocacy and based off of a response to a
Yeah.
loss or some type of experience. And we stood on stages with parents that lost children and I never imagined being the one that would be standing up there. And it completely like, I mean, talk about a mind fuck of not knowing if this was like, I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't
I
even know where I'm going with that
I
because it was
no.
so hard. Like, I don't even know where I was going with that conversation
Well,
because
no.
we weren't sure. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to share or talk about him or even step on another stage because who the fuck was I to say,
Right.
right?
And first off, I know
Man,
you
enough
lost
crying
Gavin.
out
No, no, no. I know you lost I didn't realize you lost him in 2020, which is another level. We're gonna talk about grief, just so everyone knows right now. No one has grieved 2020. Let's just be honest here. The healthcare workers, if anyone watches The Pit, which is an amazing show, they are the first show that I am seeing that is actually talking about the PTSD that has been associated with COVID. And it's set things off for me because again, I'm not a doctor, but we all experience that.
Yeah.
And it was already disorienting and what the fuck. But then to lose Gavin during that time, I can't even imagine, especially with restrictions and all the other bullshit that came with it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want you to like trauma dump, but losing someone not to COVID, but losing someone during that time, like, how was that even like?
It was, I mean, I can't blame it on COVID, but I do believe that was a huge reason because Gavin, it was 2 weeks after his 17th birthday and COVID had just started. I mean, he
Mm,
passed in May. It'll be 6 years next month. And so we were only a couple months into the
wow.
pandemic. And he was like, fuck you. I'm not going to quarantine. I'm not going to follow the rules and wear these masks
Right.
or whatever. Stay
Right.
home. I'm 17. I'm out of school. I'm going to go do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And he wasn't somebody that was highly addicted to drugs. He experimented and ended up taking a pill that was laced with fentanyl and went to sleep and didn't wake up the next day. Like he was only a couple miles from our house. He wasn't
Oh my
out
God.
on the streets, he was staying at a friend's. And while, yes, there were maybe many things leading up to that day, some of the struggles and challenges that he was already going through as a teenager
Yeah.
that didn't make it any easier. And then isolating and disconnecting because of COVID,
Yeah.
not having the regular support system, not having consistent school because stuff was shut down.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, now what? And even as parents, we had to also walk this fine line because we still wanted him to come home, and
Yeah.
wanted to leave the door open for him
Yeah.
and also have strong boundaries because we had another child at home, right? Like his
Yeah.
younger sister, who was a couple years younger. And so we couldn't, even as parents, and we reached out and connected with other parents and tried to, even find resources. And even as people working in this space, it was still hard to navigate finding support for a teenager because it's like non-existent.
Yeah.
And then, to contact family and to have people come together even at a time, like, I mean, I think we could only have like 26 people at the funeral home or something. Like, we literally had to pick and choose which family members could come say goodbye to him, like,
That's so
I think
fucked.
there's still, I mean, and don't we've done, some memorials and things like that since, but it was terrible. I mean, and
Yeah.
I know we weren't the only family members, like, there were so many people being impacted by loss and, birthdays and celebrations that were being done virtually,
Yeah.
and, man, like, it sucked. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just no other words around it, and though I have to, also take a moment to recognize that all the people, though, that did show up for us and our community,
Yeah.
especially the recovery community, who, man, literally showed up every day for us, like consistently checked in and would bring us coffee and call us. And I mean, we've had people all across the country checking in, especially on Anthony, like
Yeah.
his son, it was like his little best friend. I mean, they grew up
Yeah.
almost together. He had him when he was 20, and it
Wow.
was, that was like his little shadow, his little sidekick, and Gavin helped save Anthony's life, like, he helped him find recovery when he was, going through it, and it was so painful to watch because, you know, even we already had, like, our own shame and guilt, like, how can
Yeah.
we other kids and yet watch our own kid go through it and then lose our own child, right? Like, what
Yeah.
the like, who are we? And yet we also then heard it from others, like, "Who are you?" And then got shamed and was like, "Well, it's your fault, and you can help save
Oh
all
my
these kids,
god.
but you couldn't save your own, right?" Or, "How
Oh
come,"
my god.
I mean, Jesus, there's people that said some of the craziest shit to us, and it sucked, and
And
that really hurt. Or
it's
he
so
deserved it, or he wasn't a good kid anyways, or, even to hear from his peers and friends, like, people that we thought, that he was surrounded with, like, talk shit. I mean, that was the worst part about it.
and people truly do not talk about all those little ancillary things of grief of and I usually will bring this up about how, like, obviously, I was not an advocate before this because I was too afraid to speak up, and it was only because I saw what other people were saying, what other people were posting on social media, people doing their own speculation, and
Yeah.
then being like, "Oh, what happened? Just another overdose." Just like you just start seeing these things, and some people being like, "Oh, well, that's expected," or those terms. And one thing that I always tell people is the pivotal point of like I'm not fucking staying quiet anymore, is there was a chick who was his friend in air quotes, for people not watching, air quoting, who shared his senior picture and then underneath put hashtag and another one bites the dust. And so to see like my brother reduced to that and to just be like, he's just another person who didn't fucking make it,
Uh,
it lit me on fire on in another way, but also, grief brought so much to the surface of not only just my own shit, but just like, holy fuck, people really are not kind. Like, especially if there's a way people wanna blame things.
yeah,
I have learned that in this fucking space. Man,
yeah,
who is the person we can blame? And this sounds really fucked up, but like when my dad wanted to do, full autopsy, all of that, for the potential hope, this sounds really fucked up, that there was fentanyl in it because my brother used the same amount, used the same everything. So my dad could not comprehend how did this happen? Like, there must have been fentanyl in it. There must have been fentanyl in it. In reality, he had not been using for about a month, I think it was, and he had Xanax in his system, and obviously we all know that I'm not gonna say we all know, sorry. People listening, if there is Xanax and then in combination with an opioid, that increases the risk for an overdose because it decreases your breathing ability. And so even this, and it's like a weird, it's not necessarily imposter syndrome, but to like, who the fuck am I to tell other siblings this is what you should do or look out for, this is what you should know when like my brother's fucking dead. So like why the fuck are you going to listen to me? So that was part of the reason like getting into advocacy. It's like at first, I'll be honest here. Victim status. I was in victim status. Fuck all of you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you and your friends. You're having a birthday. Good for fucking you. I hated everyone.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I got deeper into it when it's like you know, I'm sure you know, anger is just sadness. It's just I heard it once, anger is sadness in a trench coat. That's all it is. And and I was so fucking angry, but at the same time so conflicted like you,
Yeah.
where it's like, I don't even know what to fucking say anymore because I don't also want to hear criticism. I don't want to hear you. I beat myself up all on my own nonstop. So I don't need to hear it from anyone else. Like,
Right.
it's like that similar, not but you know what I mean? Like, how can I be trusted almost? Like, how
Yeah.
can I be considered someone that my information is valid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even know. And I think because I think even just admitting it, I don't yeah. It's so crazy. We just watched this interview, and this is what it made me just think of. Shia LaBeouf
Mhm.
is going viral right now with this interview that just came out where
Okay.
he's just talking about somebody's like asking him like, well, basically like what advice do you have? And he's like, none. Like I'm literally in the middle of it. I'm figuring it out.
Right.
I don't have any answers. But but just being that authentic and saying, like, "I don't fucking know,"
Mhm.
is that's enough,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's
Mhm.
like, even though we maybe don't know, like, I don't, right? Like, I can't tell you what's gonna help another parent with their child versus another one and theirs, like, it's different for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody uses for different reasons, everybody recovers for different reasons, I feel like, and at the end of the day, like we're all kind of figuring it out, and I don't have those answers, either at the same time, and I think that that's what helps me get back up to do this work
Mhm.
today, because 'cause I'm just I guess I'm just sharing, like, what I'm learning along the way.
Yep.
I
And
don't
that's
have a
how I
PhD, you know, and
exactly.
not that that even matters necessarily, you know? I don't know.
No, I completely agree because it's something where I went to college for marketing. I'm a business major. And that's the other thing too. Coming in this space, everyone's, you know, I work in this treatment system. I own this organization. I'm the head of this. I'm that. It is very intimidating for a family member who's never been in this space to come into this space because I'm like, damn, y'all really walk the talk. Like, y'all are really doing this. And so I felt like, who the fuck am I? Only as the most proactive person, this was the one thing I was a reactive person on
Mhm,
because I had no fucking clue how to navigate it.
mhm,
And so even with, again, I don't think people realize that grief doesn't go away. It can chill. I always describe grief as the ocean, where like sometimes it's just like relentless. There's a fucking full moon. There's all sorts of dumb shit going on. And it's just bringing up all the things. And then sometimes it's calm, but
yeah,
I'm never out of the ocean. I'm never not like when you lose someone that doesn't get replaced by someone else or anything else. And especially considering your loss and the topics that you talk about, and especially with Anthony, you're doing like, I don't do this with Jordan. You know, it wasn't Jordan's brother, you know, and it wasn't to him, like to my brother immediately. The first
right.
thing he said when we got engaged was like, I'm so happy. I've always wanted a brother. And I'm like, cool. I'm getting married also. And I found someone who's not going to treat me like shit. But whatever. I'm so glad you have a brother now. Is there any sort of, like, additional level of something that comes with that when you obviously experience grief in different way, but you both experience that same person and that grief associated with that. To then move forward and to talk about it and then not necessarily go up there together and you talk about it per se, but, like, you're both managing each other's grief while this is going on. Is that a mind fuck also to unpack? Because I don't
Yeah.
present anything. Jordan does his own shit. He's corporate Jordan. But even when we're talking about my brother, it can get messy
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, even, because I'm like the step parent, right? I'm
Mm,
like a bonus mom, I didn't birth Gavin, and
yeah,
even though, I mean, I love the shit out of him, he was like a son to me, and so even already, like, the
yeah,
dynamic is different,
yeah,
and I had to learn my place with that too. Like, I had to grieve that process of it also because
yeah.
I wasn't mom, and I didn't get a
Mm,
lot of say in things. And I had to learn how to show up and show
mm,
love,
yeah,
um, even while knowing, like, that he was, like, hurting from his
yeah,
mom, like, there was a lot
yeah.
of pain there and struggle because he lived in another state, but
Mm,
I was very upfront, like, "I'm not your mom, and I don't wanna be, but I wanna
mm,
be here for you." Um and so even learning like that, and I have to say I'm really grateful because Anthony and I started doing a lot of like personal growth and development work
good.
prior to
Yeah.
this, prior to losing Gavin, prior even because before Gavin, one my younger cousins passed away from fentanyl. And he
So
was in
sorry.
Boston, and I had to fly out there with my family and bury him. And then it wasn't even a year after losing Gavin that my other cousin passed away from
Oh my
fentanyl.
god.
Like, the very same thing took all 3 of them within a very short amount of time, so my family was, like, grieving, that's
Yeah.
grandson's gone, and trying to also figure out, like, how it ended up impacting our family, so heavily, and, like, how do
Mm,
we move forward from that? And to not feel like because I also didn't want to well, it's grief is, it can be touchy, right? Like, I didn't want to like hurt others' feelings, right? In their own
mhm,
process of grieving, my
right.
family. And so it wasn't like I had to really figure out and take a step back first and make sure that
Yeah,
we taking care of ourselves first.
yeah,
And I'm so grateful like that we had some of that personal development of understanding around like burnout and compassion fatigue,
yeah.
self-care and community care, and like really diving deep into my own health and wellness because then I started getting sick and I was going to the doctor. I kept after
Mm.
COVID happened. Well, I got COVID and I was sick for like
Shit.
I couldn't taste or smell for months, like months.
Wow.
And then COVID, like, my whole body was so like, my immune system was so low that I kept getting, like, strep throat
Oh,
and then
yeah?
tonsillitis or whatever, so I almost went to get my tonsils taken out, and then my hormone levels were off, and I got thyroidism. And so here, then my doctor was putting me on medicine for, my
Yeah,
it was endocrinologist was helping with,
yeah,
like, you get, like, hyper or
and
hypothyroid
hypo.
and I was like and so all of these things were affecting my body, and
Yeah.
then I get pregnant and experience a miscarriage.
Oh my
That was
god.
like it was like that was even more of a mind fuck, and I was like,
Jesus.
how can we lose a child? And then I get pregnant and we're like so excited and we're like, this could be a blessing. And then I'm like, oh fuck, but it actually didn't form into a
Oh my
baby.
god.
And so it's like, no, actually, you're not having a baby, even though you have all the symptoms. And so that was also like, well, it was a process. And then we got pregnant with Aiden and we have the most beautiful baby boy today. But that yeah, life still happens. And
Yeah.
grief is like the ocean. I think that's in part what like drew us to Florida because we're surrounded by water.
Yeah.
And we're literally just talking about this yesterday because we watched this like documentary on Florida. It's like the third favorite state or whatever in the US. And we're like, because it is surrounded by water. I think because of what you receive when you come here, like I feel better. And maybe
Yeah.
it's because we're water signs, both of us. And I don't even know how we started with this conversation, but
Yeah.
man, like I'm just so grateful. Like seriously, we've had to navigate some hard ass conversations because we
Yeah.
do this work together. And there
Yeah.
are times that he's had walked off stage or I've had to walk off stage or, where I've broken down in tears or he is, but we're
Yeah.
showing up authentically
Yeah.
and, showing up like, hey, we don't have all the answers and we're still kind of figuring it out as we go.
Mhm.
But man, like I know, yes, I wrote my book, but I'm really looking forward to Anthony's because
Yeah.
he has such a powerful story, and, I tell him, like, I hate speaking after him because it's so hard to share. Like, I
Uh-huh.
especially feel like I have, like, nothing to share after he
Mhm.
talks, especially about him and Gavin, and, he lost his son and his dad within 2 years, his
Oh my
dad passed
god.
away from alcoholism, and then Gavin did 2 years later, and, like, I mean, for him to watch him navigate grief and
God damn.
still show up today as, like, the most amazing dad, like,
Yeah.
it's inspiring for me, like, I'm so grateful, and there are times, like, I'm up and he's down, and we go back and forth and
Yeah.
balance each other out, but, we're really looking forward to creating spaces for other people
Yeah.
to heal and
Yeah.
together and grow together, to come to, the Sunshine State and get
Mhm.
support and know that you don't have to go through this process alone.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, it's how much, like, healing we found, and so, yes, well, we
Yeah.
do together and we'll continue, with our nonprofit, but what we have found, especially over the last 5 years is our voice again, and
Yeah.
Anthony has found it through photography and taking photos and sharing his story, through
Mhm.
other people's stories, and
Yeah.
then I've been able to do it through my book and through writing.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited because now we're taking that energy and creating spaces for others,
Yeah.
to share their own story, like whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah. And I really love that you both bring up or that you brought up that both of you were doing your own personal therapy, whatever it might be. Because for me, again, it was a reaction. Because up until my brother died, I was juggling 9,000 things and I had the perfect mask for the perfect situation. It was not necessarily known to everyone, what I was juggling. But then literally my brain broke and everything came crashing down. And so I started with grief counseling, then it turned into, couples therapy as well because I was like, "Hey, we're both kinda fucked." But that we started that also during 2020. And then eventually a couple years ago, I started personal therapy after that, but then I started EMDR. And EMDR has been the thing that has unpacked the most because I realized how much of my shit I had compartmentalized and put away nice and neatly in a box somewhere. And the way that and the fact that you were having, physical reactions, but, like, people don't minus pregnancy, minus all that, like, grief can physically make you sick and make
Yes.
people don't realize how grief exacerbates all of that. Like, about a year after my brother died, I got an autoimmune because I just kept running on empty. My immune system was shit. I was on prednisone and,
Yeah.
like, I was forced to sit with all my shit, which is exactly what I didn't want to do. But from there, that's what started this idea of, like, I need to start going to fucking therapy. And the fact that both of you go, me and Jordan both also go, he has been doing EMDR as well. And one of the hardest things for us is that we're both healing shit. We're healing trauma from whatever, but we are at different points in our journeys. And
Mhm.
there have been multiple times where it has maybe felt like, are we going to stay on the same path? Because I feel like depending on where someone is in either processing something or accepting what the reality of what shit was. Because sometimes you're like, fuck, when you finally sit with your shit, you're like, I was the fucking asshole in that. Like, I was the one being unreasonable, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Having those conversations and, doing all that, do you find that part of your book writing also kinda helped you better understand potentially how to relate to Anthony or just better understanding like, "Hey, I need this more for myself," like, as you're going through?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I literally bawled my eyes out after writing
Mm,
certain chapters. And I think it was because it was like finally like a relief, right? And I've
yeah,
been journaling for a long time. And to really, though, like put all that into one place, I always knew I wanted to write a book. I just didn't know like all the life experience I needed to go through before I
yeah,
could write it.
yeah,
But it really helped me take that time with it because we are always so busy. We're on the go. Like we don't slow down enough to actually feel our feelings. And we've
agreed.
seen that especially this last year. And I'm not going to speak for Anthony, but I'll share for myself. Us moving to Florida definitely opened up a lot of that because we slowed down a lot, right? And we took out like it's like all these stories that we kinda tell ourselves, right? And
Right. Mhm.
these, like, beliefs that we have and kinda things that you stand so strong on, and then you take all that away, you're like, "Well, none of that really mattered," right?
Right?
Or, "Wow, like, I was putting myself in that situation," you know? Or,
Yes.
like, "I'm the one who should have said no or sorry or moved on," or whatever, like, and I mean, especially like when we moved here, because we slowed down and created this space, like all of these things started bubbling to the surface
Yeah.
of learning, because when tragedy happens, it is easy to just, go back to work or go back
Mhm.
to everyday life or keep moving forward because we don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
But then if you don't take time to process that stuff, it will
Mhm.
come out and it will come out in various ways and
Yes.
sometimes not how we want it to. And
Yeah.
like we've had to learn like making sure we eat good food and get outside and get good sleep and
Yeah.
like those, and even though they're like super basic shit, like we need those things
Yeah.
or we will spiral or we'll, get triggered easily or
Yeah.
not have that self-awareness because yeah, because it never goes away. Like,
Mm-mm.
we're going on it'll be 6 years next month and it doesn't feel like that at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we people have to create those spaces. Otherwise, you'll carry it in illnesses, right? Like your
Yes.
body will react. So we've had to have like hard conversations.
Yeah.
And especially because, like, even for me, like going through postpartum and after having a baby and trying
Yeah.
to rebuild like my own self esteem and learn what it's like to be a mom now.
Yeah.
And, Anthony's always been a dad since I've known him. And so
Yeah.
been different to learn, like, it yeah, and to now parent together.
Yeah, that's true. I guess not that I had not thought that, "Oh, you're a mom now," but you have played a that sort of role. However, birthing the child and then you are like the source of food, you are that for the child. That's a totally different experience. And then on top of it, in a transition time of your life, like a physical transition time of your life. And in the last year, especially since you have moved, what do you think has been like your biggest kind of like aha moment or like self-discovery moment that maybe even if you figured it out even as you were writing your book, but like you'd never sat with before, so you never really like pondered it?
That's a good question. I feel like and this is something I haven't even shared yet because I think I'm still processing it,
Yeah.
but it was after putting my book out,
Yeah.
published it, I self-published. I chose
Yes.
to. I was gonna go with a publisher and get an editor and do the whole thing, and I was like, "You know what? I'm fucking smart. I can figure
Yeah.
this out, like, I can get on Amazon,
Yeah.
and I also didn't want it edited. I wanted like a really kind of raw, authentic
Yeah.
book, but I got it done and I did all the formatting. I was super proud. I'm looking at it because it's like right here. I
Yes.
literally like I made the cover, I created it, I did the whole thing myself. Something I was so freaking proud of. I still am, and yet even after I was done, I shit you not, I was literally online applying for college because I felt like I needed to go back to school because I wasn't smart enough to put out a book to tell other people about
Wow.
being good enough.
Wow.
And and I'm saying that now because I haven't processed that yet. But I think it just kind of goes to show like the work never goes away, right?
No.
Like I know I still have more stuff to learn and work to
Yeah.
do. I didn't go to college. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm fine. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
don't know what the fuck I would even go for
Yeah.
right now.
Right.
I was like literally making stuff up like
Right.
I don't know, I could go to this course or this one because I don't have a degree. And I was like, who's going to
Yes.
listen to me? Because I don't have a degree. Nobody's going to buy my book. And I
Dude,
felt
I
like
totally
all
get
this
it.
shame and guilt. And I was like, where the fuck is this coming from? And I
Yeah.
just got done writing about like, well, I don't need a degree and I'm
Yeah.
smart enough. And man, but that still creeps in. And I was like, why am I literally signing up for the state college right now?
Yeah.
It's just I think that that was really eye-opening for me and, something that I'm, still owning my worth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and being able to know, like, I am smart enough. I am good enough. I
Yeah.
do deserve to share my story. I do have stuff to share.
Yeah.
And I guess even now it's been, 4 or 5 months since I released it and I'm really learning how much this is needed in
Yeah.
community and how
Yeah.
many women are also silently suffering. And
Yeah.
talk about leadership. I mean, we step into leadership in so many areas
Yeah.
as moms and wives and community members. And we forget to take care of ourselves, though.
Yeah.
And we forget our own needs.
Yeah.
And we forget, like, because it can be easier to help others. I
Yeah.
don't know where I was going with that, but I
No.
just, like, it was just weird. Like, I don't know. So it was just very eye-opening for me, and I've really learned though, like, yes, my voice matters, but I'm also seeing, like, how much other women need this space too.
The part about not seeing, like, your true value or even questioning it, because there you could be in a mode where you're like, "Fuck everyone. I know exactly what the fuck I'm doing. You guys are morons, blah, blah, blah." And then all of a sudden, I get into a space where I'm like, who the fuck am I to say I'm like a coach? I'm like, I need
Yeah.
to get a coaching certification. So then I literally, what you just fucking said a month ago, I was like, what coaching certification? I need a legit one so people can recognize. And it's like, bitch, what are you doing? Why are you going to drop $5,000 to probably like have a title which no one will fucking recognize or what carries that? But I
Right.
get into these modes and I'm sure you get this a lot because you present very confident. You know what you're going to say. You don't stumble, you don't bumble, anything like that. So for other people, this gives an impression of you're a confident person all the fucking time. You know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. I'm the
Oh,
same way. And it's more so out of necessity because, like I learned to also, I need to assert myself. When you become an advocate, you learn to speak up, you learn to whatever. Doesn't mean I'm confident in what the fuck do I think that you're possibly looking at my outfit right now? Yes. Do I think that there's all these things that are like going through on our heads that we're constantly doubting our own worth, even though all we're trying to do is to show people like, hey, I'm fucking worth like I have value. I bring something to the table. And yet, every day without fucking fail, something reminds me, but are you?
yeah.
Are you really worth it?
Yep.
Are you really what you say you are? And I think that's
Mm.
honest though, because I mean, if you think about it, any sort of like self doubt, self criticism we have, like, didn't just pop up overnight. It was probably years and years of feedback, passive aggressive bullshit, input from other people. And so much of what our kinda like what you were mentioning, like, I have to do all these things, and then when you get pulled away, something happens, whether it be a life change, a physical life change, whatever it might be, you're like, "Yeah, so I kinda made all that up," and, like, that's not, like, required for me to exist, and so I
Yeah.
find that even though, like, we can speak and be like, "Hey, I can motivate the fuck out of someone else. I can be your biggest cheerleader." I love to do that. Because I even feel like awkward saying this. I'm very good at parsing through the details and seeing like what's the big thing here? Like what's the root of the issue here? I'm very good at that. I feel very uncomfortable saying I'm very good at something though, because I think at some point someone will be like, "Oh yeah, take this test and see if you can figure it out."
Let's see how good you really are.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's a fucking problem. You can figure this out. What's the root of this problem, bitch? Anyway, so
Mhm.
I'm always in this mode of like, I can tell you how to do things, but for me to process it myself and then implement that is so much harder. So I love that, honestly, that you're not pretending to be like you know it all, and like, hey, I got to this point where I wrote a book. You got to a point where you are confident enough to compile your thoughts and put them into a book. That doesn't mean you're confident overall in life on everything that you do, but at least in this space. But by putting that out and self publishing, which again, I'm very much like you, where it's like, if I can do it myself, I want to. Bringing other people in the process might get messy. Like maybe I don't like what you have to fucking say, to be quite honest. And
Yeah.
so, so it's like, but you're also very particular because this is your fucking story. And I think that's
Right.
what a lot of people don't realize is that, yes, we may make it look easy to share our story, but it's my fucking story. And I want to share it in the way that I want to share it. And
Yeah.
so if that looks like I maybe you tell me to be confident, but you're not confident yourself. But like that's what being a human is. We don't claim to be the know it all, but like you mentioned, I can pass on lessons that might help someone else who is somehow in my position. And I very much in the same way where it's like, if one person finds something good in that, then that's great. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of times, so much of our value is measured by, say, how many books are we going to sell? How many people listen to this podcast? How many, all these metrics. But in reality, it's like, at the end of the day, are you okay with what's out there about you?
Yeah.
And with this book, since it has been out, I'm gonna be completely honest, I have not finished reading it. All my friends happen to just come out with books at the same time, and I'm like, "Could y'all
I
not?"
know.
And also in the
For
middle of,
real.
like, the world being the world. But first of all, I just want to say kudos and congratulations for the fact that you did it all yourself, in case no one has told you, because
Mm.
if it is a lot of work. To be an entrepreneur, to do anything on your own is so much fucking work, and people don't realize that. But in doing that, did you find that writing the book actually kind of like made you more confident to try shit that's not even within this recovery space? Or now you're like, hey, yes, this is about me and my recovery, but it's also your mental health. It's also grief. It's also all these other things. So since then, have you started tinkering with the idea of going into other spaces that you traditionally haven't been in? And what does that look like?
Yeah, 100%. And that even happened really more so after COVID because when the schools shut down, our nonprofit temporarily shut down. And we were like,
Yeah.
well, what now? How are we going to connect with kids? So that was just like one piece of it.
Yeah.
Learned to navigate that, but also like, we're like, how can we continue to connect with community? And that is something, especially when we see like how many people have been disconnected and like
Yeah.
learning how to, I even say today, I think everybody is in recovery in some way or another
Some
because
way.
we all experienced COVID together.
Yes.
We grieved our community. We grieved like the loss of the like all the things that we were able to go do, right? And like
Hmm.
we're still trying to figure that out. Now I forgot what your main question was, but because I immediately want to go into like how literally like how are we figuring out the last 5 or 6 years? It's been insane. Like, especially
In
for college students, like I
that,
have to give so many of them grace because they went through like some shit, like they went to school with masks on their face. Like
right. Well, and
I
even
don't
the
even know.
things like the ceremonial. type things. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how much I cried watching car and if you think about it, it's like a car parade graduation, like, that makes me wanna like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
these children, whether it be there were people starting kindergarten, there so many of these children were robbed of the structure
Yeah.
that is kind of needed for you to succeed in school or to feel whatever. And so for you to mention that, I think so much of us is like, oh, now I just work from home or now my work's different or whatever. But it's like, you can't have schools different. I'm just going to try an alternative. I'm just going to go to trade school now or what. You're like 15,
Yeah.
dude. Can't go to trade school. So
Yeah, but now
that piece
everybody thinks
alone.
that they can homeschool too.
Right.
Like, oh, everybody's like, oh, yeah, we'll just continue doing virtual. Like, no, our kids also
Mm-mm.
need to be in school. We need structure. Not saying like, I do think the school system's broken. We do need an
Yeah.
adjustment. We need to be able to meet students where they're at and teach them in a way that they know how to learn.
Hmm.
And so with that, now I remember your original question. So yeah, we've had to go into other spaces because I also learned that like, well, yeah, addiction and mental health impacts everybody. And
Hmm.
like it's not just youth, right? And we go into workplaces and then we realize like, oh, adults need help. Our teachers need support. Like,
Yeah.
how are they supporting our youth today?
Yeah.
And so that's where like Rise, we've continued to expand and we, have our Rise Connection training, which actually teaches adults like how to create these spaces for young people
Oh,
because
wow.
they don't know, right? And so we're like,
Yeah.
how can we talk about implicit biases and understand what our
Mm.
biases are and how
Yeah.
they're impacting how we lead and how we show up. And
Yeah.
then, even giving adults like the language around mental health and substance use and abuse,
Yeah.
right? Like they don't even know how to have these conversations. And so that was where we kind of started expanding in different areas after COVID. But really with that, we also didn't know if like, especially after losing our son, if we could even continue doing this work. And so we
Agreed.
started learning, what else, because I think even as advocates and maybe other people that are listening could relate to this, like if you create something, it kind of becomes you, like your identity.
Yeah. Mhm.
And Right Together has very much been like our identity.
Yeah.
And I talk about it a lot in my book because Anthony and I, prior to COVID and losing Gavin, like we very much put our business and organization like before our relationship. Like
Yep.
that was our forward facing, like we didn't show people that we were together. We didn't talk about it from stage that we live together or we're
Right.
creating live together. Like that wasn't, and for certain reasons we wanted to keep respect for us, but also
Sure.
like we also didn't know where we were gonna go or how long we were gonna be together or,
Right.
like, what that was gonna
Right.
look like, but I'm glad that we did it that way, but then for us to then find, like, well, what does our relationship look like now?
Yeah.
And what other pieces of our identity matter still? Like, what else do
Yeah.
we care about, So we were able to kind of take a step back and, step into other places. Like Anthony, started working in like the automotive scene and we got
Oh,
really
yeah?
connected within the car community.
Yeah.
And really cool, to gain friendships and get connected to people that really care about cars. We have a classic car ourselves. I grew up
Okay.
going to car shows, like something that we really love. And we were able to like get back into doing that. And then I really got into like learning about health and fitness. I talked
Yeah.
about going to the doctor and I had thyroiditis and I had like all these things that were happening. And I was like, man, I need to take better care then of my health. And that looked like my nutrition and showing up in the
Mhm.
kitchen and drinking more water and like doing some of these small habits, that we knew were important. But what I realized with that is that like what recovery and I think prevention is always going to be a part of me. It's always going to be, I think, a part of my story, especially. But I really learned like I wanna bring what I've learned into other spaces, like,
Yes.
I wanna be able to take what we've been teaching into companies and organizations of, like, women
Agreed.
leaders that need to be having these harder conversations, and so if
Yeah.
anything, it just kinda opened my eyes that, like, I think because I was so much in the addiction recovery space to kind of step back from that a little bit
Mhm.
and to not only be known like as a recovery advocate or as like a Rise
Mhm.
Together leader,
Yep.
um, I was able to, identify like who am I today, or
Yeah.
who do I want to be, and that was able to help us to like get to. Well, I'm like, I know I'm somebody that wants to live by the beach, so
Yep.
when we got the
Mhm.
chance to move to
Yeah.
Florida, we're making the move. But
Uh,
not everybody does that, right?
and I'm smiling because everything you're saying is the topic of, like, what I'm going to talk about in my presentation, so I'm like, "Thank God, okay, this is a thing that should be talked about," but about the role that when you come into the recovery space, like, the thing that I'm leading off with is, like, when you come into the recovery space, you're like, "Hey, I'm blah, blah, I'm a peer, or I'm a whatever, I do this in this space." And we come into this space and we don't talk about any of our other things because we don't think that they're necessarily relevant. But yet
Yeah.
outside of, again, like you had mentioned, like you have other interests, other things, and other roles that you play. It's like, so say, for example, like outside of recovery, I'm an artist. I like to create art. And so realizing that so often we silo ourselves because we're in the recovery space, we only talk about recovery. I'm a family advocate. I only talk about family advocacy, which is, again, I didn't want to be known just for my dead brother. No offense, Mark, but I am a person too. And
Yep.
I taught you to be you, so to be quite honest, like me, I'm the star here, but it's something where then I felt like I'm not gonna just talk about my dead brother the rest of my life, like, it's uncovering all of this other shit about me too, and so, like,
Yeah.
my shit that I'm processing, yeah, I can say what my brother went through and how that affected me, but I'm literally going through shit right now that I can speak 100% to and I'm confident about instead of like assuming what my brother might have been thinking. And so for me, I have almost felt like weird trying to, because I did harm reduction for a while, like I was doing street outreach. And then it's like people could see me as a harm reductionist finally because I was, doing the work. And then moving into other things, it's like, I don't want to be bound by the one role. Like you may know me for that thing,
Mm.
and I was so worried, like, people only will know me because I work for Mobilize, that's it. Like, I'm only associated with the organization, Rise Together, I'm only associated with this, but in reality, I am more than that. It's not that Mobilize is not important to me, it's not that family advocacy isn't important to me, but right now, things that are important to me are totally different topics that like I am very passionate about because there are people who are still in family advocacy who still do, recovery advocacy that are passionate about that. And please keep doing that. But I think there are people like you and I where as time evolves, some people are complacent and they're good like, hey, this is what I know, this is what I like to talk about and that's great. I think that if you are more creative, I think if you are more creative minded, then you're never just satisfied with the thing. You know what I mean? You're thinking there's always new things to create, new ways to improve, new ways to do whatever. And so I love that you mentioned that because I think far too often we limit ourselves simply for the fact that I don't have a title. I don't have this degree. I don't have this role title. No one's ever
Yep.
called me this, but I
Yep.
think I could be it. And so for you trying to kind of process this, and actively moving through this idea that, hey, I am more than that just this, especially with like Anthony getting into photography and doing all these things and realizing, hey, there is like a common intersection between all these things. For you specifically, what are you looking most forward to in terms of like the area in a new, I guess, population or group that you're looking forward to hopefully reach moving forward?
I think, I think really, I don't know. I've been kind of going back and forth because it's right now I'm really learning what that community is going to look like. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. I feel though, as I've become a mom and have learned more of what my role as a mom looks like and while building business, right? And
Mhm.
I feel like I don't know. I think that there's something within that. And yet I'm though really still being called to working with women that are just walking through their own journeys,
Yeah.
like and so I don't, it doesn't have to be just recovery from addiction, right?
Yeah.
Or I think it's because we all are going to experience or have experienced hardship at some point.
Yeah.
And I always really had this calling to work with youth and prevention. I said it before, but will always be like in my heart.
Yeah.
But I don't know, something shifted after I became a mom. And I
Yeah.
knew that there is more yet there to be seen. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what it is
Yeah.
yet, but I'm really excited to find what that is. Like right now
Yeah.
I've been connecting a lot with treatment facilities and working with women that are maybe in treatment or in recovery or in sober living. And that is something I think, yes, I want to create spaces like that. And I think it's gonna go a little bit deeper. And, like,
Yeah.
my dream goal is to create, like, this retreat or experience center where people can
Mhm.
come here to look for healing.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't know exactly who that's going to be yet. And
Mhm.
maybe I won't know until those people find
Right.
me, right? And
Right.
so I'm kind of just going to continue putting myself out there. And I think that I learned that from um, quite a few years ago when I first got into recovery. I really struggled with gaining friendships with other women.
Yes.
Like, I had no
Mhm.
problem connecting with men, I never
Yep.
have. And then it was even easier for me because even like for me and like Rise Together and Anthony being the founder and like, oh, and you're Nadine. Oh, and
Mhm.
Nadine, right? Like it was
Yeah.
oh, Anthony and Nadine, right?
Yep.
Like I couldn't wait for my own thing
Yeah.
too, like something that I did and created
Mhm.
and made because like Rise will always be Anthony's baby. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that was his thing. And even, some of the former founders and people that started the organization, like I still kind of felt like I was like the outsider,
Yeah.
even as the executive director today, right? Like I still didn't create the organization, but
Right.
and so I had to kind of find my place within that. But when I first was getting in recovery, one of my mentors was like, because I would cry about it. I would literally pray for like girlfriends to
Mm.
like want to hang out with me, or to like have friends that I could go do stuff with that also had similar goals and passions and
Yeah.
also wanted to be healthy and not just partying and going out all the time. And my, mentor at the time, she was like, "Nadine, instead of you looking for them, like keep doing you, keep
Mhm.
putting yourself out there, and
Mhm.
eventually those people will find you, right? Like the right
Yes.
people will find you." It's kind of crazy looking back at it now because I mean, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I was literally had somebody show up in my DMs and was like, "Hey, wanna be part of my community," right? Like, this girl was working out and it
Yeah.
ended up being MLM and whatever. It was awesome for the
Yeah,
time
but
that I
still,
did, but
yeah.
it was the community that I needed,
Yes.
and these women were supportive, and it wasn't all about addiction recovery. It was just about like working out
Yes.
and eating healthy and just like taking care of ourselves because we're human beings and we should be,
Yes.
not just because we're
Yes.
in recovery.
Exactly.
And it was just cool to finally feel like I had that community that I was yearning for, even though
Mhm.
it was virtual.
Yeah.
But then I got to go meet these women in person and we did retreats together and we got
Yeah.
connected and I got to learn about, other people's lifestyles all across the
Yeah.
country. And I, traveled to Tennessee and North Carolina and I got to, put myself even in uncomfortable situations so I could get connected and learn
Right.
and put myself out there. But now, I don't know. I have grown so much, and it also I have to preface that I had to learn how to love myself and
Mm.
appreciate myself as a woman truly
Yes.
before I could appreciate other women. I realized I was
Yes.
like for a long time, I was like, "Oh, all these, like, girlfriends, like, fucked me over, or I never had any friends or
Mhm.
whatever," but I realized, like, oh, I was the common denominator. Like, "Oh, well, maybe I'm not that great of a friend." I was like, "Oh, shit, I think I need to do something different," and know that, like, It was because, though, I didn't feel like I had worth or value.
Yes, that and what you're saying resonates so much with me because as going through therapy, I was thinking a lot of my shit was all with men because duh. But
Yeah,
as I'm going through, I realize I am fucked about women. I'm equally
yeah,
as fucked about women. And a lot of that comes from a space of I'm an anxious person by nature. And I don't know if you like know attachment theory, but like I'm anxious attachment, meaning like if we become friends, unless you end the friendship, I will always call you my friend. I will always want to be your friend. I will always be that person because in the past, in relationships with men, would chameleon myself. You know, I would like all their likes. I would become that. And even with new friends, new female friends, I would do the same thing. But what I found is that I had this habit of making female friends who needed someone that was like an emotional support dog, i.e., me, and I love to listen. I love to ask questions. I'm curious, like you mentioned. I'm very curious. I want to know about people. I want to connect. That's all I want because
yeah,
growing up, being the oldest, you can't necessarily sometimes connect. I can't maybe go to all the things because I had the most strict things. So I had to watch my brother and sister, you know? So there's always like all these sort of things. But I found that I would make myself small so that they could have all the space simply for the fact that I didn't think I had anything to bring to the
mm,
table other than my questions, the fact that I always show up and I'm always reliable and that's great. But what is this doing for me? I actually had to stop and go and realize that there were friendships in my life where it is one way. I am the one who always fosters the friendship. I'm the one who reaches out. I'm the one who whatever. But then realizing there were also friendships who they're friends with me for something I provide to them. And it's not friendship. It's
yeah,
a service. It's a skill I have. It's
yeah,
connections I might have. I will being in this space, sometimes people just want to be your friend simply because you can connect them to another person, i.e. Ryan Hampton or something like that. I'm just going to call it the fuck out because be like, you work
yeah,
with Ryan. I'm like, I also work in
yeah,
general. And yes, I do work with Ryan.
yeah,
But you start to question, is this friendship? Is this a mutually reciprocal thing? Are you sucking me like a fucking vampire? And I'm just
yeah,
like, "Why why can't I have, like, friends?" Because I had no standards for my fucking self. I had no
yeah,
standards for myself, and additionally, I couldn't stand up for myself as well, because I also didn't want to lose the female friendship. I didn't
right,
wanna lose that, and you're so afraid of, like again, I'm someone who was a fucking nerd and I've been, plus size, overweight, fat, whatever fucking words make you feel better. My whole life, I have looked at other women, hoping I could be other women, wishing I was skinnier. We were all raised by a boomer woman attitude of like, everyone's your competition. That person, you see a girl, immediately point out what's wrong with her so you don't feel as bad. Let me project all my shit onto everyone else. It was
yeah,
incredibly unhealthy. And I recognize that. But we grew up in that. We grew up in point out what's wrong with that fucker, that fucker, that fucker, so they're not looking at what's wrong with you.
oh, yeah,
And it is so toxic once you start to realize, like, I feel like a lot of our generation, Gen Z, and I think younger, has done a really great job with like women supporting women and like having
yeah,
that camaraderie.
yeah,
But growing up, I didn't have that. And so, especially like you said, in this space, sometimes people want to be your friend for the opportunity that they might be able to get. And it's
right,
been very hard for me to navigate that until I started to develop confidence in myself. Because, like you said, if I don't know what I bring to a friendship, like, I don't have standards. And so I'll just, thank God anyone's paying attention to me. And so, like, it was so refreshing to meet you and talk with you in person and genuinely feel like we are not people competing because we're complementary in reality. You have your experiences, I have my experiences. And I know when we were in November, we had talked about just the idea of retreats. Like, that sounds fucking awesome. Like, I want to do a retreat. Simply for the fact that, like, we all also understand that a lot of healing and change can occur in a small group.
yeah,
Especially a small group that's just let's just fucking laser focus for fucking 2 days. Let's just look at this shit. And you can
yeah,
walk away because we've experienced that. We've walked away from a conference maybe or something like, "Holy fuck, I can take on the world." And
yeah,
so what you're talking about, especially because it sounds so much like being a mom also really helped reinforce a lot more confidence, maybe perhaps in your
Yeah.
intuition, your decision making. Like, I'm a fucking mom, fuck off. Like, I know what I'm doing, you know? And it's giving you that street cred. And I know we're over time. And so I'm trying to like find my way to wrap this up because I also don't need to eat everybody's time. What are you hoping with whatever community that you create? What are you hoping that people will walk away with? Or what are you hoping for that community? And then I would love for you to talk about anything that you are doing, either talk more about your book or just anything else that could connect more people to you if they are looking for exactly what you described.
Hmm. I want people walking away feeling seen. Like anybody that I work with or that Anthony and I work with together, like I want them to feel like, holy fuck, I matter, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
whatever they walk away with, whether Anthony's shooting photos with them or
Yeah.
I'm guiding them through their story or, whatever it looks like I want people to feel seen because
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to feel invisible,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And I want people to feel like they can take the mask off and let themselves be seen.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to like put on a show and smile your way through the bullshit,
Mhm.
because
Yep.
I've been there.
Yep.
And like, who are we
Yeah.
bullshitting?
Right.
Like, what are you waiting for? And that's
Yeah.
exactly like, that's why I titled my book Enough Already.
Yep.
Because enough already. Like, what the fuck are you waiting for? Like whose permission are you waiting for? Because
Right.
nobody's gonna come give it to you, right? Like, it's there. Like, my
Yeah.
invitation is here to take that step,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like. And so I want to help people feel seen, to feel like their story can be heard
Yeah.
and so, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing here, in Florida. And I'm right now creating healing spaces. I'm calling them little resets on a monthly
Oh, I
basis
love that.
because sometimes we just need a space to reset and like disconnect and not feel like we need a goal or some type of
Yeah.
outcome, that we can
Yeah.
just be ourselves
Yeah.
and let ourselves be seen, right? I'm gonna go back to
Right.
that. And so yeah, we're doing that actually. We're hosting one of our first events next month in May. It's called Bloom State, and
Oh,
it's going to be all around like what's your bloom state? And we're gonna help people be seen, but through flowers and
I love
photography and
that.
like good food and some drinks and just it's going to be a small pop up. And from there, our next one is going to be flow state. And so we're going to
I
be
love that.
a group of people getting probably on some kayaks or paddle boards, and we're going to flow and
Yeah.
we're going to learn what it looks like to flow through the hard shit and,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, through the muddy waters of the Indian
Yeah.
River. But eventually the goal is to then do like day retreats and hopefully overnights at some point while doing my book tour. So I'll be out
Yeah.
sharing my book. This next month's Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm going back to Wisconsin for a couple weeks
Hell yeah.
sharing my book, and Anthony is doing his Unbroken event. And so he is
Oh,
hosting it in Green Bay at the Art Garage,
uh-huh.
and it's his second event, but it is again, helping people be seen through portraits.
Yeah.
So he's taking photos of family members that have lost loved ones to overdose and
Wow.
going to be putting up an exhibit. So he already has a gallery from the event last year. So he'll be
Yeah.
showcasing all the photos he already took while
Wow.
taking new photos. And I can't share too many details,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
have a couple of those events that we'll be doing throughout this year. And so
I
I'm
love
really
that.
excited. Like yeah, I mean, we're growing and expanding in different ways. So you can follow me on social at Nadine Speaks. My website is nadinespeaks.com. Our nonprofit, weallrisetogether.org. You can find all that information. You can find anything on the internet today. But that's really our goal. Like I want to help people be seen.
I always tell people it's like an hour and a half. It always goes over because we end up talking, whatever. But thank you for taking the time out to spend with me because obviously I know you have a baby and you have things that you have to do. But I love our time together and so much of what you speak about and what I'm going through and learning myself aligns so much. So I'm really glad that we were able to meet in person. And I hope that we can collaborate in the future on stuff because it sounds like we're just both in a spot of healing,
Yeah.
which is so fucking important right now. And as two
Yeah.
very traumatized people, that's all we want. So I appreciate you making that a priority because it's a priority for me too. And other women and people just in general should prioritize their healing and their well-being. So I'm going to turn off the recording, but this does not disconnect you. But I'm going to end this with, okay, bye.